In this episode of the Digital Trailblazer podcast, we're going to talk about different ways to launch your online course without having to use paid ads. So stay tuned.
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now let's get to it with today's guest.
Welcome, everybody, to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. I am Todd Getz, and with me today is our guest, Joanna Newton. Joanna, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and tell them what you're all about?
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here today and talking with Todd. My name is Joanna, and I have been in the world of selling and marketing online courses for my entire career. I started out at companies like the Princeton Review and then worked for startups before going out on my own as a business owner and started my own course creation agency, where I help coaches, creators, and service providers build their own online digital products.
Awesome. Yeah. And with me and Leah in our business, that was the thing that really took us from kind of like the low 6 figures to suddenly 7 figures in revenue, was launching our own online course. And a lot of the courses out there, they talk a lot about how to create the course. And a lot of people who kind of get into this thinking that creating the course is a hard part. And once I get over that, it's all downhill from there. And then they quote launch, and then suddenly there's no sales. Right. And so that's usually when they start the second half of their journey, which is a real difficult part, which is how do you actually get people to buy, right? How do you actually launch this thing so that you make sales, it's profitable? So let's dive into that, because a lot of people don't want to have to jump into paid ads right away. What's your philosophy, or what are some easy ways that we can get started with launching an online course without having to do paid ads?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I know a lot of the people that I work with, they do come into the course sales world thinking, oh, I'm just going to build it. I'll create my funnel and money will start coming in. And unfortunately, that's not the case. I think there are a lot of people like us in the world who, not us, but other people who get online and say, oh, you just launched, you're going to make money. And they make it look so easy that you're just going to make sales in your sleep. And that can happen someday, right? Like that you can get to that point, but it takes a lot of work to get there. So the first thing that you really need to think about when creating an online course and an online course business is building your audience. So some people will try to build an audience with just paid ads. And in all of my years in this work, I've never found that paid ads alone can do it. That you have to build an audience somehow first in an organic way where people can find you before you can boost any of your work with paid ads. And a lot of times when we think about building an audience, we think about the traditional ways, right? Like growing a YouTube account or growing an Instagram. And those are some fantastic ways to grow an online course business. Like get on the internet, talk to people, and do that. But if you're saying like, oh, social media is scary, there are a lot of alternative ways that you can grow an audience. So I've worked with people who their strategy for growing ads is through lectures. One of my clients was a professor, and she would do guest lectures all over the place. So she would get up on stage, guest lecture, and give away her freebies at her guest lecture, have a QR code that says, hey, grab this thing. She wouldn't sell on the stage, but she would say, hey, grab this free thing. And she would start building her email list that way. Other people that I work with do this by connecting in Facebook groups. Now, there are unethical ways of growing in Facebook groups. I have a Facebook group. You have a Facebook group. I'm sure you get tons of people who are like, not doing it the right way. But you can go in and engage with people in Facebook groups that are your target audience and get them to organically kind of find your Facebook profile and opt into you. There are lots of ways to grow your audience, but the first thing you should focus on if you want to be a course creator is building an email list, building a social channel, building sort of like some sort of traffic generating machine. I would even so far to say you should do that before you build your course. Like start creating that audience. You can do it simultaneously, but if you say I'm going to create all my course content, edit the videos, get everything up, I'll worry about selling later, that is the wrong order.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. And I think the other benefit to that is that when you start building an audience, you start to learn what they really engage with, what their problems are, what are they most interested in as far as your content. And you can use that information to kind of drive the direction of what your course is about, what's in it, different marketing angles that you can take with it. You really learn a lot about what will actually sell when you start building an audience before you start building the course.
Exactly. Oh, 100%. I'm working with a client right now who she has 80,000 YouTube subscribers. She's been able to build a fantastic audience on YouTube. And when I met her, she was like, I need to be selling. I don't know why I'm not selling. I don't know what's going on. And, I was asking her questions about her audience, like, because her YouTube channel is very topical. So it's not so niche specific. So I was kind of like, is your audience teachers? Are they this kind of person? Are they this kind of person? And she didn't know. So we actually started our engagement, and the survey is actually happening right now with a survey. We set up a survey that she could invite her YouTube subscribers to fill out. She's getting their emails, right? She's growing her email list in the process, turning around and saying, what do you want? Like, what is it that you want? Now she's going to be able to have that data, figure out what to create, and then go back to those same people and say, hey, I built this thing for you. And that's something that I think is a step a lot of people skip. Grow an audience, figure out what you want, and then sell it versus like starting with the idea and then working backwards.
Now, one of the things that I think you kind of touched upon was people being afraid of getting on social media or trying to build that audience. And I think part of that is that sometimes people have an expectation that they can build a faceless online course or something like that. Like they can just create a course without having to put their face or brand behind it. And then they can sell it and people just buy it and they don't have to be on social media. Is that something that you think can be done, or is it really tough to do it that way?
So I think it's something that can be done, but I think it is more expensive. What I mean by that, if you want to build that faceless brand, then you are going to be relying on ads and things to test, right? Or alternatively, you're going to have very, very creative social content that is probably highly edited, highly creative, right? So maybe you're someone who's camera shy, but you know how to do stop motion animation. So you make like the coolest stop motion animation videos that educate on your topic because you're uncomfortable with being on camera. So I think it is 100% possible to grow a faceless education brand. I do think it is more expensive, a longer road, and much harder. So you have to be able to show up online, I think, to be an educator. And I think one of the reasons people have that disconnect, I think it's for a while why I didn't think of myself as a salesperson, even though I sell a lot, is because I don't feel like a traditional salesperson. Like, but I can teach and I can educate and I can show people what I do. That's why I love podcasts, right? Because I can come on here and talk for 20 minutes to an hour and show people that I know what I'm talking about without having to say, you have to buy my thing 30 times. So one is reframing, right? Like getting to the point where you're like, I'm going on social to show up and to educate and to connect and engage with people. Because if you engage with 5 people, and one of them likes you enough to buy, that's amazing, right? You don't have to have millions and millions of followers. The other thing with social engagement and creating social content, you can also pick the platforms and the content style that works for you. If you do not want to be on video, that is challenging, but there are platforms like Threads, as an example, where you can grow on Threads without having to post videos if you write great written content, right? If your product is super visual, Pinterest might be a great place for you to show up, where you can take photos and images and graphics and connect with people that way. So if showing up on video is challenging, which I think for some people can be, then find a content style and a platform that you're going to enjoy doing.
Yeah, and I would 100% agree with that about the faceless brand or the faceless course. It is so much harder to build something like that. And I would say the other thing is that you're going to have to charge a much lower price in order to be able to sell something like that. You can't command a higher price with, well, I shouldn't say can't. I think it'd be very, very
It's
difficult.
more challenging.
Yeah.
It's more challenging to have a higher price point without access to an expert.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like when we sold our very first course, and I think looking back, it was definitely underpriced, but we sold it for $300 and we built a 7-figure business off of just that one course. And we didn't have fancy backgrounds like I've got right now. We didn't have a bunch of fancy branding. It was all stuff that we had done ourselves, and it was very amateurish. But I think part of the appeal was that we were relatable to people. Like people saw themselves in us and where we were in our journey, and they saw the result that we were getting with the course that we were selling. And when they saw that, that's what made it believable for them to say that, oh, well, if these two can do it, then I can do it. And I think that's what really drove a lot of the sales for our online course. Now, when you say building your audience, building your email list, I know that a lot of people that we talk to, they're on social media, they're doing some sort of online platform, but they're not necessarily building an email list. Why is that so important?
For the most part, sales come from emails. And I say this working with corporate brands to people with 200 followers on Instagram, right? Like I've worked with the full range of folks. And at the end of the day, sales typically come from emails. So if you're on social selling directly to a course, you should 100% promote your direct offers on social as well. But if all you're doing is saying buy, 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 you're going to have a harder time than if you get people into your ecosystem through an email list, nurture them, and sell that way. So some ways to do that. And I think some people go this opposite extreme and they create 75,000 freebies and have 75,000 links in their link tree that just people don't know what to do. I recommend really having like one freebie for every program you're trying to offer and not trying to have way too many. Now you might get to, as you grow, right? You might get to more for different reasons and all of that. But if you're trying to sell one program, create one really good free thing. And if you're starting out, that free thing could be the best thing you do, right? Like it's totally fine. People are like, I'm so scared to give away my best stuff for free. Give it away for free. Like get people into your world. You have to make customers somehow, and you have to make connections somehow. I worked for a company that did AP exam testing. And one of the best things we did is we made these like one sheet study guides. It was like a 1-page study guide for a particular unit of the exam. It was the simplest thing. All it was every single topic that you have to know for that exam. So it didn't even go into detail of each topic. It was like, these are the things you have to study for the AP US history exam. We did that for 3 subjects because we were offering for 3 subjects at the time. And we got 50,000 email addresses from those. Huge, 50,000 emails from these things because we were doing free YouTube lives talking about those contents and constantly saying, get the study guide. And we weren't saying, get one of 100 study guides. We're like, this is the AP US History live Q&A. Go get the AP US History live study guide. And then we could, to those people, right when we launched a course for the AP US History, we were able to say, hey, you just download the AP US History Study Guide. Do you need more help? Here's a coupon code for a brand new program. Because you're already studying with us, we're giving you a deal, right? And getting people into that course. So you create that nice cycle of engagement with your people. So again, one of these things can be overwhelming. You can say, okay, say you're a course, you want to create a course, you decide, I like making short form videos. I'm going to try Instagram because I like doing carousels and short form videos and just chatting in my story. I'm going to go with Instagram. I'm selling a course about how to get your first 1,000 followers on Instagram. That's my course. So my freebie is going to be how to optimize your profile. And you talk about, hey, if you want the templates, the best things to optimize your Instagram profile, go grab it. And you're just promoting that all the time to grow your email list.
I will say that thing that you said about sales come from email. It's like a dumb moment for me. Like when you said that, it was, yeah, you're right. Duh, that's right. When I look back at where our sales come from, it's from our email. Even though we've got, if you look at our social media profiles, I think on Instagram, we've got 30 or 40,000 followers on Instagram. We've got another 20 or 30 on YouTube. We've got a couple Facebook groups that have got 10 to 20,000 in those. We've got some pretty good social following. But when I look at whenever we put out a new piece of content on any of those, how many people do we actually reach out of all of our subscribers or followers? And it is a tiny percent of a fraction that actually see it whenever we make a post on Facebook or Instagram or anywhere else. Whereas on our email list, if we send out an email to our subscribers, and our email list, I think now is somewhere between 40 and 50,000. If we send out an email to our list, on the very low end, 10% of people will open that email. Almost everybody gets the email. We get at least 10% open rate, sometimes as high as 40% open rate on those emails. That is a level of reach that we will never get on any of our social platforms. And the other thing is that with email, we own that. Nobody can take our email list away from us. Whereas we've had Facebook pages shut down on us for no reason. We couldn't find a good reason why that was shut down. We've been shadow banned on Instagram in the past. But your email list, people can't take that away from you. And you're exactly right. That's where sales come from. I remember when we were doing our own online course, about 40, sometimes up to 50% of our sales would come from the follow-up emails that we sent after our webinar. So it would practically double our revenue from our online course just by sending out emails after the webinar that people had registered for. Speaking of which, so once we've built that audience, what's the next step? Like, how do we actually sell an online course? Is it webinars? Is it challenges? Is it just a really good sales page? Like, what do we need to do to actually sell an online course?
Yeah, it's all of the things. So I think that definitely when you start growing your audience, set yourself a goal in mind. It doesn't have to be that big, but maybe you say, when I have 500 people on my email list, I'm going to launch my course. Or when I have this many, whatever it is, you pick a number, give yourself a goal, get to that goal, and then launch. And the truth is, I have done so many different launch types that work. I don't think one over the other is necessarily the way to go. I think the thing to think about is your audience, what your program is, and where you show up, right? Because everyone's a little different. I'll give you an example. So I worked with a client who really did not want to launch with live webinars. She launched with live webinars before. It stressed her out. The technology and things wouldn't work, and it just wasn't for her. Like, the stress that it caused wasn't worth it. So we brainstormed for a little bit about what kind of launch style might work for her. And I think it's really important, right? Like, if you've left a 9 to 5 or you want to leave your 9 to 5 to be a course creator, you do not want to set up a life you hate. Like, you don't want to set up launch styles that hate. You want to set up a launch style you want to do all of the time. So we brainstormed a little bit, and I came up with this idea for her that she was going to launch using YouTube premieres. So by premiering a training on YouTube. So she didn't have to show up live, like on camera, but she was live in the chat talking to people, which that level of technical ability worked for her and didn't scare her at all. And so what we did was we set up a registration for the event. Hey, register. We're premiering a free training at this date, this time. Sign up. You'll get notifications. Then we send them the link to the pre-scheduled YouTube Live, emails following up with them, getting people excited, getting people to show up, giving them little bits of value along the way so that people would show up. People come to the live where she's chatting, she's answering questions. Pre-recorded in the live is the pitch for the program with a special deal. The clincher here was we only made the live available for 48 hours. So we really drove people to go watch it and get that sales pitch. On the live, she put the link in the chat at the right time so everybody could buy. Emails went out afterwards up to the deadline. And she sold $27,000 of courses from that launch. Her email list was just under 10,000, right? So this wasn't like massive audience, right? That's a good size. 10,000 is a good size audience. But even with that, just over 900 registered for the event. So with 900 people registering, she made $27,000. And the beauty of that is the people who didn't buy got value, right? They got new value and connection with her. So maybe this wasn't the right thing for them. Maybe they'll buy that same course in a year, or maybe they'll buy the next course because maybe the next course is a better fit for them, right? So what you want to do with a launch is come up with a launch style that like feels right to you. Have some sort of pre-launch event. I'm putting event in quotes for the people who are listening and not watching. Have some sort of pre-launch event that's going to get people excited. Could be a YouTube live. It could be an Instagram live. It could be a traditional live webinar. It could be maybe you have a free community. It could be, hey, show up in the Facebook group. It could be anything, just something with a date and time, right? That kind of gets people going towards something. And then follow-up is huge. Like have that follow-up. If the training is 45 minutes long, have that first follow-up email go at 45 minutes after your event starts, right? So if someone clicked off early, couldn't get the whole thing, didn't get the link, that link's delivered right in their email.
Yeah. So that YouTube strategy, was it a pre-recorded video and she was just live in the chat? Was that how it worked?
Yep, it was pre-recorded. So she was able to create that training in advance, but still have that live feel by being there in the comments. And when we started this idea, she loved it. But one of her objections was, will people feel like they're not getting what they thought they were getting, right? Because she's not live. And I said, as long as we set the expectations, right? So setting the expectations is super important to say, it's a premiere of a new training and I will be in the chat answering questions, right? So we're not lying. I'm not a big fan personally of like the fake live webinars. Like, they're not there. If it's a webcast and it's not really live, just tell me, right? Like, tell me. And so we just told people. You asked earlier, is it the sales page? Is it the messaging? Obviously, the message, all of that's important. But I think people get really caught up in sales page copy and all of these things because, again, there's all of these experts out there saying, like, I have the secret sales copy. So you then start to think, I need to know some secret. People kind of need to be told what to do and what they're getting, why they're getting it, why it's beneficial. And a lot of times, like, if you're truly an expert in what you do, you know what those things are. You might need a framework to help you, like, walk through what it is. You might need kind of like, okay, what order do I write this in? Or what is that? But like if you're speaking from the heart and you're telling people the truth and you're connecting with people and then the important details are there, you're good. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you got to tell people the date and time to show up. Yeah, you have to tell people the price point. Yes, you have to tell people what's in the course, like what they're getting, right? You have to get certain details in there, especially when you're starting out. If you're at the level where you're getting 100,000 people through your funnel in a day because you're running all of these ads, yeah, that's where those like little word differences and green button versus yellow button versus that's when that matters because those types of conversion metrics can increase you by 1%. If you only have 1,000 people on your email list, that 1% isn't that many dollars. But if you have 1 million people on your email list, that 1% difference is a lot of dollars. So I really encourage people as they're getting started, if they're not making 10K a month yet, to just focus on getting people through a system, making sure they know what you're doing, making sure they know who you are, why you're valuable.
Now, with your launch event, do you recommend it's always some kind of live thing, or could you do like a fully automated training that people just register for and you're not really involved live?
Yeah, so I think you could totally do that. I would have to think through like the specific audience and all of that. but you want to come up with something that still drives that urgency. So for the people who don't know, there's an idea of like an evergreen funnel, and evergreen funnels are great. Say we go back to that example we shared earlier of the person who's starting a course on how to get your first 1,000 followers on Instagram. And she has a freebie that says, here's how you perfect your Instagram profile. In an evergreen funnel, after someone got that freebie, they would start getting emails for her $50 Instagram bootcamp that is available at any time, right? And there's no date, time, deadline for all of that. That sort of function does get sales. I've never seen it bring in, and you've experienced this too with your launches, after a webinar, that's when most of your sales come in. Those evergreen funnels help sales trickle in, and you should have them, and you should have them set up as part of your system. But these times when there's a deadline and excitement built really drive sales. Now, do you have to be there live? Not necessarily, as long as there's still a date and time of that event and a deadline for your launch period. So I don't know, maybe the launch event is, if I wanted to fully automate it, is an emailed out training. Okay. So sign up. I will send you this training at this time, but only to the people who sign up, right? So there's still a date and time, and there's still something to go for. And if you don't sign up, you're not getting that training, right? So I think you could think of it that way if you wanted to not be there at all. And then maybe in your launch style, because it's a little bit more automated, the discount is only available for the first 100 people to sign up. So that deadline is for that first 100. And I think you could think through ways, if you don't want to show up live, how to still run a launch. But I think you really need that urgency. And believe me, I would love it if you could just sell as much as you want through truly only evergreen funnels. And you can sell in only evergreen funnels, but these launch events and launch moments help to drive your business. Now, one thing that I recommend people do is set up an evergreen funnel for every single one of your courses, right? Have those running. And then you have, it's essentially a marketing calendar of when you're going to either do a promotion on one of your existing courses or launch something new. Maybe you're doing that, depending on your revenue goals and the pricing of your programs, somewhere between 3 to 6 times throughout the year, you're doing a big launch event, but then you also have your evergreen running 24/7.
Yeah, we've done it both ways, where we would launch with a live webinar, and then once we got that live webinar converting really well, we would convert it to just an automated thing where people can register at any time. And I will say that when we look at the conversion numbers between the two, our live webinars, when they were fully optimized, would convert 3 times better than taking that same webinar and then just putting it in a pre-recorded version. But the pre-recorded, like automated evergreen funnel, we were able to scale that about 8 times bigger than we were the live webinar. So it was still way more profitable to do it that way, even though the conversion rate was lower. In my opinion, I feel like just starting out, especially if you got a smaller audience, you need to do those lives to get the reps in, to really hone in your presentation, to get things optimized really well. Like you said, after that, go ahead and just put it into an evergreen funnel and just let it drip in sales.
Yep. And your business was ready for that, right? And I think a lot of times as business owners, we might be doing a strategy for $1 million business when we're not a $10,000 business yet, right? And so your business was ready to say, wait, this is good. People are buying. I can scale this funnel. Now it makes sense to run ads, or now it makes sense to do this strategy. That makes sense. But a lot of times people want to do that first. And I think that's the thing we're getting to here is live launch in some creative way, get a program going, get it selling, and then also doing that. I also think, as a side note on ads, when you're active on a social platform, what you've done is you built a course, you built a funnel, it worked, scaled with ads. You're probably also active on that social platform. So it all kind of goes together. That organic and ads go together with a tested funnel.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the other things that people are probably wondering is, when you're building this audience that you're going to launch to, how do you know when it's the right time to launch? Like, are we looking for a certain audience size? Are we looking for a certain engagement rate? Like, how do you know how big of an audience you should have before you really launch to it?
That's such a hard thing because I really do think it varies. There are people with audiences, they have 300 to 500 followers on Instagram who people are DMing them asking for. You could then be ready to launch with 300 to 500 people. There are people, if you've grown an audience, some people grow an audience of 10,000, but they're not great followers. And so they're not having it, right? So I think about, if people are, a big tell is your email list. If people are getting your freebies and you've got your email list to around 500, you're probably good to go to give it a shot and try a launch. Or if your social following is asking for it. So we're about to start with someone, he's kind of grown overnight on Instagram, and people are literally DMing him, can you do a course? Can you do a course? Can you do it? Well, he's ready to launch. He doesn't have an email. He has 0 email list, but people are saying, please do a course, please do a course, please do a course. So then you've got to get going.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I think that if you wait too long and you grow too big of an audience and you haven't done your webinar or your challenge or whatever launch event you're doing, if you haven't done one yet and you're trying it for the first time, you don't want to blow it with a really big audience.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember our very first webinar that we did. We didn't even have dual monitors. We had to print out our presentation notes on paper, and during the webinar, you could hear us ruffling through the paper to try to figure out what we were going to say. It was not the best presentation. And when we ran the registration for our webinar, I think we only got maybe 20 or 30 people registered. I think about 12 people showed up live, and then we made 1 sale, maybe even 2, but I know we made at least 1 sale.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. But, and that's the thing. It was like, it wasn't that great, but we knew at least we were hitting on the right notes and we made a sale. But if we had done that for a much larger audience and the stakes were, say, 10 times bigger, that would have been really bad. Like that would have been a lot of pressure that we did not want. So I think early on, especially if your presentation skills are not that sharp, launching to a smaller audience is actually a good idea.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'll also say, you can launch at any time. What I think is good for people to set expectations, right? So maybe you have 100 followers, no one's asking for anything. Sometimes just doing a launch and giving yourself deadlines can help you grow that email list, right? And so what's good to avoid is, because some people will launch, get crickets, maybe not make any sales, and give up. And I don't want that to happen for people, right? So if you have some thick skin and you have 100 followers and you know what, you're like, I'm just going to run a launch because I want to, and I just want to practice and see what happens. As long as if you only get 1 sale or you get no sales, you're not going to then give up, because a huge part of launching and being an entrepreneur is our mindset. Like, a huge part is that. So if that's going to crush you, wait a little bit. Now you have a thick skin. I've launched things to crickets before. It's okay. I'll move on. I'll try another thing. But you have to have that kind of thick skin to know, okay, that didn't work. How can I adjust it? Maybe I just need more emails, or maybe I need different messaging, and like move on and try again.
So let's say you're in this situation where you've already created the course, you tried to launch, maybe you posted about it and nobody showed up, nobody bought, and you're in the situation where you have the course, but you've got no audience. Do you have any advice as to how to get up and running as fast as possible with building an audience and getting launch ready?
There's a lot of ways, right, to grow an audience. But I think a huge way that people don't think of first when they're thinking about growing an audience is with partnerships and collaborations. So something to think about, if you're launching a course, look to your network, look to people in your space. You might be able to collaborate with someone and say, hey, you have a program that would complement my program. Maybe we'd sell some kind of bundle, or maybe we do some cross promotion, right? So like, people call that audience borrowing in a way. Like, you could do that. Sometimes you can even pay for that, right? Like someone might not do it for you for free, but maybe you can. And so in a way, that's advertising, but it's just a very different type of advertising. Someone might say, hey, yeah, I'll promote your stuff for you on my channel, but it costs such and such dollars, or something like that. So a really fast way is through those partnerships. Another thing that you can think creatively about is more of a sales approach than a marketing approach, is bulk licenses for your courses. Say you offer a parenting course as an example. There are plenty of nonprofit organizations that support parents. Maybe those nonprofit educations have those nonprofits have budget for continuing ed to offer parents. Maybe they'll buy 100 courses from you, right? And that's more of a sales strategy than a marketing strategy, but you can always go out and go to those groups and say, "Hey, I have this program. Would this benefit your people?" Maybe they'll send an email for you, or maybe they'll just buy some. Like, there's some options there. Growing on social is a long road, and that's okay. It can be fast for some people, right? Sometimes you go viral, you get a bunch of followers, it's fantastic, but that doesn't happen for everybody. So you always have to have these like other strategies in your back pocket with collaborations, direct sales, like business to business work can always be an additional way that you sell courses. My business partner has a course that helps people pass the exam you need to fly drones. So if you want to be a commercial drone pilot, you have to pass a specific exam. So he started his first business it wasn't his first business, but his first course business was this online drone school. And one of the big ways he grew was through partnerships with going to organizations and saying, "Do you want your people trained? Great. Let's get 10 of your people trained. Let's get 20 of your people trained." And that can be another way to sell your program.
Nice. Yeah, I really like that idea. There's so many people that are, for example, like we've got a lot of clients that help women who have gone through toxic relationships or bad breakups, or who are in a situation where they had a partner that was maybe abusive in some way. And I think about all the charities and nonprofits that help that exact same demographic, and that partnership could work really well for a lot of people. Now, when you're doing that, do you typically offer those bulk licenses at a discount, or how do you price that out?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely recommend offering a discount that scales with the amount of licenses. I mean, for the most part, the beauty of an online course business is each additional student isn't really costing you that much more money. Obviously, you have some sort of online platforms, you have to pay for data storage and all of those things. So those costs will scale over time, but you don't have to charge if your course is $100 a person. You don't need to be charging $100 a person to that group. So typically, like scaled discounts of between 10 and 40%, I think are pretty common in this space. If you're selling to like other businesses, like 10 to 40% scales as it goes. Like I said earlier, a sales process and a marketing process, right? You're going to reach out to those people, or they're going to reach out to you. You're going to meet with them. You're going to make them their proposal. You might include bonuses with that. Like, "Oh, hey, your package includes 1,000 seats, but then I will do 4 live presentations to your group throughout the year," right? Like you can kind of think through a package that's going to work right for that group. And that was actually a strategy I learned working in the corporate marketing world that I feel like I've been able to sort of infuse into the course creation marketing world, because at the Princeton Review, we would go sell 1,000 SAT courses to a school district, right? Like that was a big strategy of ours to grow in that way. And why not, as a course creator, do that as well? Now, if you are selling into school districts, there's a lot of complications and legal things that you'd have to learn about. That's a whole nother world. But if you're looking at just selling to other businesses, I work with someone who sells like a personal development membership and reaches out to HR at big companies. You're filling a need. Like that HR team has to have a certain amount of professional development available for the company. You're solving a problem for that HR problem. But this is what's challenging when you take that approach is you're adding an avatar in your strategy. Say your program is for teaching email etiquette. I don't know, I'm making this up as I go along. Teaching email etiquette. So you say, "Hey, I'm going to go reach out to companies, HR teams, to see if they want to offer my program." Now that HR representative, that is one of your target clients that you have to understand and create messaging for. Because the messaging you send to that HR person is not the same thing as the person who's going to buy the course for themselves. So then you have to start thinking a little bit more strategically about your messaging, because you have these like tiers of messaging between the buyer and the user that are two different things.
And I will say that sometimes the way those budgets work is that if you don't spend the money, you'll lose it, and then you get a smaller budget next year. And so, especially like towards the end of the year, a lot of departments are looking for ways to spend that money so that, they can keep.
Yeah, so that they can keep it.
Now, as far as pricing strategy goes, do you have any tips as far as how to price your online course and if you should give discounts when you're first launching, or, should there be a discount on the webinar versus after the webinar? Like, do you have any pricing strategies for us?
Yeah. So I think for pricing, the thing to think about for an online course is your pricing should be based on the value of the transformation you offer, not the amount of stuff in your course. You could have a 45-minute course that's worth $1,000. You could have a 3-hour course that's worth 25, right? So think about the value of that transformation that you offer, and that's where that price point is. So it can really vary. I don't think there's like a sweet answer for a program. I worked with a client who currently has a membership that's like $13,000 to join because she's teaching people a business model. It's basically like you're joining a mini business incubator and going to walk out with something where you're going to be able to make a lot of money doing what she does, right? And so that makes sense. You're learning an entire business model. It's like a college course. It's like a year of college, right? And it's not even that much content. It's that you're basically kind of buying a business in a box that you can then go apply. I have other clients who sell their courses under $300 because that's the value of that transformation. When it comes to discounting, I think there's a reality, whether we like it or not, that people need a deadline an incentive to buy. You have choices. You can discount or you can bonus. You can say this program is $300, but if you buy by such and such date, you get this extra thing. Or you can say this course is $300, or if you buy by a certain date, you get a discount. It's like trained in our brains to want a deal. So something I do recommend for your first course launch, I like to promote what I would call, and you can name it different things, but like a founding members discount. Say your goal price for the program is $499, right? So it's $499. That's what's going to be on the website. When you do your first ever launch for it, do something kind of crazy. People get more people. You've experienced this with your course. I've experienced it with my courses. If you get people, you get more people. It's just true. And so if you have that founding members discount, maybe you're giving it half off or $300 off for a short period of time to like get people in there, and then you're changing that. What I don't recommend doing is launching saying it's $299 and then 2 weeks later changing it to $499, because that like confuses people. Then the people who didn't buy are like, what? But if you say, hey, it's $499, but for these first 2 weeks, you can get it for $299. And then when it goes up to $499, people get it. But here's the thing you have to do. If you do that founding members discount, you can never offer it for that low again, or people won't believe you, right? You have to stick to it. So when you're pricing it, I think through, okay, I want to sell it for $499. My founding members discount is going to be $299. In the future, when I discount it, I'll do $399, right? Like, so when I run a short promotion, my short promotion price is $399. So think of your top price with sort of your promotional tiers in mind.
I know that when we were doing our live webinars, we would have different tiers of bonuses that they could get, where if they joined before the webinar ended, they would get every single bonus. And so we would always have a bunch of sales come in before the end of the webinar. And then we had other bonuses that would expire maybe 48 hours after the webinar. And this is where the email came in, because we would send out that email maybe 4 to 6 hours before that final deadline. The subject line would be something like alert or important bonuses are expiring, something like that. And we would give them a link to buy. And every time we sent out that email, for the next 2 or 3 hours, we'd see another spike in sales. And then when that last final tier of bonuses would expire, we'd send out another email and we'd see another jump in sales there. And so it absolutely works to have those deadlines. We did it with bonuses, but yeah, I know a lot of people do them with discounted pricing as well. But yeah, creating that urgency, I think it's what gets people off the fence. They see your presentation and it's almost like people want it. They put it on the wish list. Maybe they'll mark the email as important or something in their email, and then they'll forget about it, or the excitement dies off later on and they just don't buy it. It's like you get put on that wish list. What gets them over that hump is those incentives to buy now. the bonuses and the discounted pricing. And that makes a huge difference in sales because like I said, we've seen it. Every time we send out those emails that the bonuses are expiring, that's another jump in sales. So Joanna, I know this has been, we've talked now for quite a while and we've covered so many topics, and I know that we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg. This launching an online course can be one of the most profitable things and most leveraged things that you can do in your business. And so I know a lot of people are really excited about this. If they want to know more about what you do and how to do it, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's millennialmktr.com. I'm sure we'll have it linked in the show notes. You can reach out to me right there. And what's really exciting is I'm actually launching very soon a membership where I will be sharing a lot of my launch strategies, templates, formulas that I've used with my one-on-one clients in a membership model. That membership will also include live group calls with me to talk through the launch process and answer any of your questions that you have about getting your course and program launched. So in the show notes, there'll be a link to a waitlist page that goes through all of the details of what's in the membership. I'd love to have you on that waitlist. And then when the program is ready, you will in fact get a special discount. And I will be honest, I'm kind of doing something crazy. So I'm doing a launch style I've never tried before with this launch. So even if you just want to follow along the launch and see what I'm trying to do, you can also just sign up for the waitlist there.
Awesome. Definitely. And like you said, we will have the links for all of that stuff in the show notes. So be sure to check that out. Joanna, thank you so much for being with us. This was an amazing discussion. We really enjoyed having you on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I'd come back anytime.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.